HTTP. Apparently I'm not connected to the network. Oh, that's because I'm not connected to Conf 2010. Okay. Let's run this again. So what Bundler is really just it's a fairly thin layer on top of Ruby gems, and what it does is it does the dependency resolution for you, and it also sort of sets up an environment inside of your application when Bundler loads when Bundler loads all the gems. It sort of subverts Ruby gems in a way that makes it easy to ensure that you have only exactly the dependencies that you want loaded. So it takes all the gems that are in the gem file and it sets up everything in your application and doesn't allow you to use any other gems at all. Nothing, so you couldn't inadvertently pick up a system gem that's only installed on your machine, but not your maybe not your colleagues. And so that's like one of the big benefits of Bundler as a workflow tool is that you specify your gems, you check in your gem file into source control, and then when you share your project with others, you're all working from that same set of dependencies, and you can ensure that you're all using exactly the same libraries, and there's no environmental differences between the two. So now it says your bundle is complete. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my person model, and I'm actually going to change it. You see it's extending from active record base right now. I'm going to extend from my Neo4j model class instead. And one thing Neo4j, since Neo4j is a schemaless database, there's nothing that, do you want to ask a question now? Okay. We should have some time for questions in a minute, I'm almost done. One thing that Neo4j gives you is, since it's a schemaless database, there's no way to actually infer what attributes you're using. With Active Record, of course, it looks at the database columns and says, oh, you have a name attribute, you have a created attribute. So with Neo4j, we actually have to declare a property, and we're going to add a validation to it to make sure that we don't store a person node with a blank name. And now we should be able to start the app. So by default now, one aspect of Bundler is that if you start your Rails server, it uses WebRick by default again now. If you want to use Mongo or one of the other servers for Ruby development, you actually have to put that in your gem file as well so that it's available when the application starts. So if we go to localhost 3000 people, do we get everything right? Yep, so we've got an empty database, no people. We can try to create a new person. And I'll try to create it with an empty name, and of course, right away we see that, oh, the name can't be blank. So the code that I put in my Neo4j model is in fact taking place, and it's interacting with the Rails controller and view infrastructure in exactly the same way as before. So if we create a mods person, that person is created, and now we, of course, have that new person shows up in the database. And so I didn't get a chance to take this much further for reasons of time, but an interesting direction to go from here if you're building out a sort of Rolodex like this is to add relationships between people, and Neo4j facilitates that really nicely. In fact, you can do things like, just a second. Sorry, should have had this ready. So you can do things like Right, you can do something like this. You can put this inside of your model. You can start to do this. Neo4j has a way to express relationships, and it's kind of similar to the has many, has one sort of things that ActRecord has. So this part is a little bit different. This is where you would diverge and you have to go work specifically against the underlying data store. But in this example here, you can create a relationship knows between two people, and you can have bilateral relationships, and Neo4j keeps track of all that bookkeeping for you and makes it easy to traverse those graphs. And then, of course, now you'd have to work with your UI. This is an area where, building many one-to-many or many-to-many relationships, and you quickly diverge from scaffolding in that case, and so it's not as easy to demo in a short amount of time. So that's really most of what I had today. So I hope I've given you a few reasons